In the world of Chainsaw Man, one of my favorite characters is the Fiend Power, who we get introduced to pretty early on in the story. What fascinates me so much about her is the fact that when she's on screen, there is hardly a dull moment in the story. In fact, just when the story feels as if it might veer towards becoming a little bit dull, Power is one of those characters who manages to inject new life into the story because of her charisma as a character. She's the perfect supplemental character to be shown alongside the series protagonist Denji, and dare I say it, she's actually more interesting in the story than Denji himself. At times, she just outright upstages him. She's greedy, she's self-centered, and at times she's just downright childish. Those are traits that normally you wouldn't find yourself as a normal reader being intrigued with by a character, especially one like Power, who isn't above telling bold-faced lies, because the way that her character is handled is equally as serious as it is at times just downright comical. In most shonen, you'll have a character meet an opponent who is clearly stronger than them, and they'll get thrown across the battlefield through several mountains, like say Goku from Dragon Ball. They'll get up with a smile on their face, they'll wipe the blood away, and they'll say things like, "Things are getting interesting now." Power isn't like that at all. If she sees she's facing someone who's stronger than her, she isn't above just getting the hell out of that fight and choosing self-preservation. It's the opposite of what we tend to expect from a character in a battle shonen, and it's really refreshing. In fact, Power is one of those characters who is focused enough on self-preservation that she isn't above potentially switching sides if it means staying alive. Aspects like that of her character are so fun to read because she's downright unpredictable, and she's someone who you look at when she's on screen and you know that there's bound to be some level of excitement that takes place. When we first get introduced to her, we learn that Power is actually a fiend. Fiends are corpses that have been taken over by a devil who seeks one out as a final last resort to survive. You identify them based off of the shape of their head or their horns or other identifying markers. They tend to have the personality of the devil who took over their corpse, but there are some fiends who maintain aspects of their original body and personality. Just off that alone, Power is made different from our hero Denji, and the interactions between the two, they bounce off so well because for all their differences, they have moments where their characters overlap, which slowly over time buds into a bond between the two. But before we reach that point, there are hilarious moments building up towards it. Power is just on demon time. She refuses to bathe, she doesn't want to flush the toilet after taking a dump, and certain aspects of her character when it comes to personal grooming that we as humans view as being just downright necessary, Power looks at them as being optional. Things that we as humans just put too much emphasis on, apparently, which makes certain scenes in the series so hilarious when other characters are faced with the fact that while Denji might at times come off like a bit of a country bumpkin, Power is just downright unapologetically nasty. And I gotta say, I love that because of the comedy aspect of it. It's because she's so unapologetic about her actions and the decisions that her character is one of the weird ways that it begins to start charming you as a reader. When she lies about killing a devil and she blames it on Denji, you as a reader, you've got no choice but to laugh at the scene due to Denji's comical response. And as the series progresses, we're sprinkled with more of those moments where you have the truth, you have the fiction, and then you have whatever in the hell comes out of Power's mouth.
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
Her actions might come off like a little bit childish, like when she has crumbs on her face from eating up the food supply during the time of crisis, or when she gossips like a schoolgirl about information that should remain private. It's the fact that she does so that makes her character so enjoyable, because she allows the author to do a very important thing, which is to muck up the story. Normally, when you hear someone refer to an author as having mucked up or messied up a story, you tend to think that they've written themselves into a corner and made things all convoluted, or they created some unimaginable, unforgivable plot hole that takes you out of the story. However, that's not the case here. As a writer, there are times where you want a character or an event that can be used to shake up the world in which your characters exist. A brand new character, or a tweak to an established character, or a series-changing event allows you to take a story that might start to be getting stale, and it allows you to shake things up by having new characters who previously have never interacted be forced to do so, creating new character interactions and conflicts along the way. In the case of Power, not only does she do this at times, but she also will find herself in a situation where she reveals information that's supposed to be kept private, and by disclosing it, she creates more conflict by making people who were previously unaware about certain events totally aware of them now, which further changes the character interactions going forward. That's one of the beauties of Power. In a lot of ways, she can be viewed as one of the most important cogs in the system that is the Chainsaw Man story. If you take her out, the story itself doesn't flow the same, and in fact, the story isn't as interesting if Power isn't in it. It speaks wonders about the impact of a character like Power and what she has on the series that is less than 100 chapters in length. She's a very well-written character. While it's easy to look at her character and her childish actions like refusing to eat her vegetables, similar to how a toddler might refuse to do so, or the fact that she's a glutton who will eat up any kind of meat from human flesh to zombie flesh to want to suck out every drop from Denji's body via his blood, it's those wild moments like that where it keeps you on your toes, and moments like this are where you have to think that like, yo, I think I gotta figure it out, and then you start to realize that there's more to her character than you previously had realized. All those exaggerated qualities of a character were just stacked on top of each other and outlandish in order to prepare the reader for that moment where we see a much needed depth being added to her character, which in turn prevents her from being viewed as just being comic relief. When we learn that she has her pet cat, Meowie, and the backstory that's there with it, it gives a much needed anchor to her character, because now we have something that roots Power and makes her a human character. Certain aspects and certain actions of her character begin to start making a lot more sense. The desperation she feels when Meowie is placed in danger shows a different side to her. A character who we were initially led to believe was selfish has now shown that she can indeed care for someone other than herself, and it's brought into focus in the moment where she allows herself to be eaten by the Bat Devil during her attempt to rescue Meowie, and the events that follow afterwards, which led to her getting eaten. It's after this when Denji saves Meowie where we start to see the formulation of a friendship really take root. We see what at times feels like a bratty younger sister or a bratty older sister, depending on how you view the relationship. With her interacting with the brother, you start to see an evolution in Power's character, which is brought full circle when the series decide to do what it has a penchant for doing quite a bit, which is utterly rip your heart out when you least expect it. In a scene that's sure to be one of the most iconic in the franchise if it gets animated properly, when Denji opens up the door at Makima's command and we see Power on the other side holding that cake and she gets destroyed by Makima, all that growth and development, those attachments that we form to a character, it makes Power's current predicament hurt so much more. It creates a Weltsmirch situation, which is essentially a moment where the reader or the viewer is faced with a cruel reality about the fictional world that they were in, and they find themselves so affected by it that they begin to start coming up with alternative scenarios on how it could have been prevented, what could have been changed, and they start wondering what life could have been like if things never happened the way that they did. What Makima did to Power and the reaction that it invoked from the readers and from Denji in particular as a character makes everything that we experience with Power feel like our hearts now have a hole in it, which is one of the reasons why I like to say Power in quite a few ways is one of the strongest heartbeats of the Chainsaw Man story. In fact, as we move into part 2 of Chainsaw Man, Power's presence is still going to be felt simply due to the contract that she has with Denji. Towards the end of the series, Power, when she forms her contract with Denji, she asks him to find and make friends with the reincarnated Blood Devil in exchange for giving Denji the ability to use her blood to make a blood chainsaw to effectively target and attack Makima. It also opens up the door for a future moment when Denji meets the reincarnated Blood Devil, making us as readers once again remember the influence that Power had in part 1 of Chainsaw Man. The beauty of Power as a character is that she latches onto you as a reader so quickly and so hard over time, and she finds herself carving a hole into your chest as you read the story, that when Makima has Denji open up that door and we as readers become gutted, the events afterwards aren't just another, oh, this character went bye-bye, we won't see him again, but rather we see Denji's loss when it comes to Power served as yet another tonal shift in the series, and it ultimately provided him with something more of use while also setting up a future plot point to be explored in part 2 of Chainsaw Man. That's how you know you have a very well-written character, when even after they've been removed from the story, their impact on the story can still be felt, which is why I love Power so much. However, those are just my thoughts on Power as a character. Let me know what you guys think about her down in the comment section below. Do you love her? Do you hate her? Are you indifferent? Give me your reasons why down in the comment section. But as always, guys, like anything I had to say, don't forget to comment, rate, subscribe, and share. Thank you so much for watching to the end of the video, guys. Have an awesome day.